How's it going, everybody? I am Kyle from Fantasy Forge Studios,
And I'm Dane.
and we are going to be going over the electric creatures in the Heroes of the West expansion for the Everlast trading card game. And so there are 17 cards in total, and for those who have been on this journey with us, starting from the Flame Element all the way up until this point, you know that a lot of these creatures are involved, especially in the Heroes of the West set, are involved with character classes that you play during in the RPG version of the game, but also a lot of the key NPCs that you do visit. We do have a map here of the lands of Everlast in the region, and where we are specifically talking about today is so we've already talked about Calum here, we've talked about Helix here, we've gone to Roinville here, and now we are making our way all the way over here to the far eastern part of the far western part of the continent, in the basically township of Helix. It's a nice little farming village community, and is known for producing not only the best grains in all of Everlast, or not all of Everlast, but all of the Kingdom of Helix. But it's known to some very unique characters, as we will see in today's kind of electric creature spotlight.
hmm
Um, Without further
And just
ado,
to
do you?
clarify, the township is Shiloh, not Helix. It's in the Kingdom of Helix.
Yes, Township of
Yeah,
Shiloh.
yeah. So, I
Zing.
mean, aside from that, again, if you guys have not watched any of our other videos, all the other elements that we have, as well as the how to read a card, especially if you're new to the game of the Everlast trading card game, we have those up on the YouTube channel. So feel free to go check those out, especially so you don't get confused during this, or if you want to sit through this, feel free to sit through this and then afterwards go take a look at card anatomy and how to properly read a card. So yeah.
Exactly. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into the adventuring class that is featured in the electric set, which is the Adventurer Bard. And so we have our first of the support line of kind of basic adventure primary creatures. As we see, Adventurer Bard, they are good creatures. You can have 3 of them on your battlefield at a time. They are have 50 hit points, and they have the humanoid, Draken, Adventurer, and Bard keywords. So this is going to be the second Drakens that we've seen. We did see one all the way back, Kelvik, back in the Flame set, but this entire adventure line is going to be Black Draken, and so you'll notice a Black Dragon. But they have a drop ability, which is Victory March. And so when you play this creature from your hand onto the battlefield, choose one of your active creatures on your battlefield in the activated position and rotate it into the unactivated position. This is really good, especially if you are going second in a turn and you have your opponents that have already like spent some resources to like activate your creatures, and so they can't do anything this turn. This is a great way to be able to kind of have a free unactivate. Or if you are going first and you've already done like moved creatures to like either done support actions or have already generated mana from another support creature this turn, that's a good way to be able to get them to do another action this turn.
Mhm. Yeah, speaking of which, I mean that this is kind of nice having this specific adventurer line because again, it gets you out there and starting to move first turn and really to enact first turn. And by the way, Kyle, so what is the specific strategy for the electric cards in this
Absolutely.
set?
Yeah, electric cards are more control decks, and so you'll notice that they have a lot more like card manipulation, and so they'll do stuff for your deck, but also your opponent's decks as well. And so it'll be things like discarding cards from their hand, things like putting status ailments on your opponent's creatures. They really excel at making sure that you have board control. They might not be the heaviest hitters. They won't be the ones that have the most hit points, but they will have kind of some of the more intense effects. And I guess that's another thing that we can look at too. Electric creatures, if we look at their weaknesses and resistances, so they are actually weak to frost type, and they are resistant to earth type. And so,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, they're
things to
pretty
note.
good. I definitely see electric types being very playable right away, especially because I feel like earth types are going to be very playable. So they're going to be a good counter
Yeah.
um, to them. But yeah, let's take a look. So if you just do decide to play an adventurer bard onto the field, if you forego turning it for a mana to get a mana, you can use the activates during the movement phase called tempo for 1 electric mana. So this is draw cards until you have the same number of cards in your hand as your opponent. So it's nice, especially if you're down. You can forego generating mana and get some cards in your hand. So especially for 1 mana, that's pretty solid.
Yeah, there are very few cards, especially in these first couple of sets, that actually have basically at a outside of drop abilities that have like at an action. Whenever you want to use it, as long as you have the mana to use it for like draw power, it makes your deck much faster. And this, I think, is going to be helpful as far as kind of like a staple support creature. But they do promote into the Adventure Blade Dancer. Dane, you want to go over this creature?
Yeah, so as all the adventure classes do, the cool thing about them is they can promote into 4 different creatures. So this is the first attacker of the line, and it's a specific line that I hold a soft place in my heart for, because my character in the tabletop RPG Yuki is this class. She is an adventurer blade dancer, so she is an attacker class, and so she can move 2 spaces, as opposed to just the one on the battlefield. But she also has the humanoid, Draken, adventurer, and bard keywords as well. And she's got 70 HP, 20 more than the base bard. And we can take a look at her traits. So as long as she is active on the battlefield, her trait Blade Dance is always in effect. And basically what this does is at the end of each combat round, place a dancer token on this creature. For each dancer token on this card, this creature's attack actions deal an additional 10 damage to the primary target. When this creature is removed from the battlefield, remove all dancer tokens. So this card gets a lot stronger the longer she's out on the battlefield. So if you can, especially early game, get her out and kind of hide her behind the line, she can really start to hit pretty darn hard.
Yeah, and speaking of which, hitting hard, she maybe starts off a little bit slow, but as you can see, she has the attack action for 3 electric mana, Blade Song, which has, it's a 90 minus, and so it has the additional effect of minus 10 damage for each card in your opponent's hand. So if your opponent has a really small hand size, it could start at 90, and then if you have your creature, your Blade Dancer, on the battlefield for a lot of turns, that continuously adds up. Basically, the name of the game for electric cards anyways is to keep your opponent's hand size small. And so this is going to be a pretty decently strong, and especially for 90 base damage, it's pretty good, and it only gets stronger as the longer that it's out there. So make sure you protect your Blade Dancer for sure. Which brings us to our next promotion, which is the Adventurer Storyteller. It is another attacker creature with 70 hit points, has the humanoid, Draken, adventurer, bard keywords, and it has the drop ability Tale of Hope. Reveal the top 6 cards of your deck and add any number of revealed electric element creatures among them to your hand. Return the remaining cards to the top of your deck in any order. And so this is a great way to be able to kind of scry what's coming up next, but also be able to manipulate it and also get creatures in your hand if you're looking for promoted primary creatures to get onto your battlefield. It's really nice.
And during the attack phase, you can use her attack activate for 2 electric mana, and you can use emote for her attack. It does 60 damage, base damage, and the additional effect is rotate the target into the activated position. So yes, she may not necessarily have as high of a attack potential as the Blade Dancer does, but she has that guaranteed 60 damage, and very control-y. Again, it allows you to activate, especially if you go first. It allows you to activate specific opponent creatures cards so they can't attack or do anything during the attack phase. So it's super strong.
Or even to keep your opponent's specific creatures, if you're able to target them, from generating mana or anything like that, kind of stopping maybe some of the more powerful threats, at least stalling them out for a turn, or forcing them to spend resources in order to get that creature back in unactivated position. So it's very, very good, especially for 2 mana. That's a pretty normal cost. But that promotes into the Bard, promotes into also the Adventurer Folk Hero. Do you want to explain this one?
Yeah, so the adventure folk hero is the defender of this adventurer line, and so it can only, or she can only move one space during the movement phase. However, she's got 80 HP, so higher than both attackers, and she's also got the humanoid, draken, adventurer, and bard keywords. But she also has a trait, which is really cool. So as long as she is on the battlefield, Song of How I Overcame Personal Strife. What a name! One of the best trait names in all of the card game, in my opinion. This is the trait that will be active. So whenever this creature is rotated into the guard position, select one of the following effects. So you can choose either to heal 30 hit points or remove one status ailment from this creature card, which is awesome because you can basically get a free heal or remove of status ailments, which is status ailments are pretty crippling in Everlast, so that's pretty good. And that's just a trait. So as long as she's on the battlefield, she can do this every turn.
Mhm.
So super strong.
Yep. Unfortunately, if you are affected by, for example, like the frozen status ailment,
Mm-hmm.
you can't do anything, including move into the guard position. But there are many status ailments, whether it's poison, whether it's charmed, or anything like that, that allows you to be able to actually have control of your card. Stunned, that as well. That would allow you to be able to, I mean, defense creatures guard anyways, and so if you can at least heal or remove status ailments that way, it's a great way to be able to use this card. And then it has the attack action for justice for 2 electric mana, and it hits 2 creatures, the primary creature, and then directly behind the secondary creature for both for 40. With the additional effect, this attack ignores damage resistance, which is pretty nice, especially if you are coming up against I don't know, like other like frost decks who do have resistance to electric cards, especially because they're kind of thick and chunky. Getting basically hitting for 40 as opposed to for 20 is much nicer. So,
Mm-hmm. Yep, very nice.
and Dane, why don't you go ahead and introduce this creature?
Yeah, so the support creature of this adventurer line is the adventurer musician. And so again, she's a support creature. She's got less HP than everyone at 60. However, she does still have the humanoid, draken, adventurer, and bard keywords. And when you play her onto the battlefield, her drop ability, rejuvenating song, takes effect. So choose one of your active creatures and return it, and all cards attached to it to your hand. So again, very situational. But also very good. So, for example, if a creature is close to getting knocked out, it's really nice because it allows you to return them to your hand, and then you'll be able to play them later on down the line, or for any reason. If you just need to move a creature into that spot and you don't want a specific creature there, this allows you just to, for free, put it back into your hand. So it seems very situational, but there's lots of situations in which this could be very useful.
This is also a decently strong effect too, primarily because there are some other cards that can do similar things. As you'll notice in the EX Battle deck, it involves a lot of Shiloh creatures. That there is one card, the Mead card, that allows you to do this as well. However, this one allows you to not discard cards, but keep all attached cards. So if there's gear items and whatnot, you can also put that in your hand as opposed to discarding it. And so definitely something to look out for. This is a pretty strong drop ability, and it also has the support action as a support creature, Heroic Tempo, for 1 electric mana. Shuffle your hand into your deck and draw 4 cards. So it's kind of it's a more consistent version of the regular tempo on the board. Maybe not, you might not be able to draw as many potential cards, but having just a consistent 4 draw, including shuffling your hand so you can kind of you're not discarding things. It's also really
I will
nice.
say, in playing the Everlast TCG and the playtesting, the adventure musicians activate heroic tempo is really, really good. That's the one thing that I realize when I play specifically is when I get into troubles when I don't have cards in my hand. So just the fact that I could forego getting mana and I'm drawing until I have 4 cards in my hand, it really, really helps. So this is don't sleep on heroic tempo. It's super strong.
Absolutely. And that brings us into our very first kind of NPC that you will encounter in the Everlast role playing game, at least present in this deck, which is going to be kind of a. Well, let's just say a company favorite, and is also included in the EX Battle deck, the Defenders of Shiloh. Um,
Oh, yes.
Beaumont and Guts. So Beaumont and Guts are a wonderful, very thick defender combo. With 100 base HP, they are a primary type. You can only have one of them on your battlefield at a time. But it has the humanoid, human, and Shiloh keywords, and it has the trait Fresh Milk. At the end of each combat round, so after both players in basically take their turn in the attack phase, flip a coin. On the result of a heads, heal 40 hit points to one of your active electric element creatures. This is great. It's not only a thick creature, but it has the ability to heal your active electric creatures for 40 hit points, which is really, really strong. It is a coin flip, but if you compare this with Kamela, it could also be pretty consistent too.
Mm-hmm. And if you choose to forego putting him into the defense position, you can use the activate attack for 2 electric mana, Cattle Prod for 20 plus. So the additional effect is if the target has the beast keyword, deal an additional 60 damage. So one thing that's really nice about this is it's really strong against wolves. And so Beaumont and Guts is actually in one of the EX battle decks, the Defense of Shiloh EX battle deck. And it's one of the stronger cards in there, especially because if you're playing against Avrila's Hunters, which is a lot of beasts in there, a lot of wolves, he hits really hard. He hits for 80 damage against them. He's also got a lot of HP, and the fact that he can heal HP at the end of each turn, I think Beaumont and Guts is going to be a staple in any electric deck, at least for the first set.
Well, it's a good just normal healing engine, because with it being just a trait, it's something that's active all the time, and he is thick enough where he's going to stay for a while on your battlefield if you take care of him. So absolutely, he's going to be this pairing is going to be, I think, seeing a lot of play. Nice little farmer.
You don't sleep on the Shiloh farmers; they are handy. That's
They
for sure.
are handy, as you will see later. But we're going to go ahead and move into our next, and actually another creature that is in the Defense of Shiloh EX battle deck, Kane, the Town Watchman. Dane, why don't you go ahead and explain this creature?
Yeah, so he is a captain. So again, you can only have up to 3 captains onto your battlefield at any given time, but he's a really good captain. He's got a base HP of 90, which for primary type creatures very strong. He's got the captain, humanoid, human, and Shiloh keywords. And as long as he is active on the battlefield, the trait Defender of Common Folk is present. So it is always going on. So if you have 4 or more active creatures on your battlefield, this creature can perform attack actions while in the guard position, which is very strong. So again, you can basically just plug up holes and then use his attack, which is also very solid, Kyle.
And a little thing to note about this is when you are in the guard position, you cover 2 spaces. So when it comes to the target of attack actions, it's basically you're attacking from your primary location of where he originally was. Not the covered space. So it's not like you can attack 2 combat rows. It's wherever you primarily are. Again, we'll be put in the FAQs for some clarification. As you will see with his attack action level slash for 2 mana, he has the ability to attack a primary creature and then 2 secondary creatures on either side. Primary for 50, each secondary for 20. With the additional effect, if you have fewer cards in your hand than your opponent, flip a coin. On the result of a heads, your opponent discards cards from their hand until they have the same number of cards in their hand as you. Really good. Again, this card actually pairs super well with your Blade Dancer. If you basically have low hand, you can force your opponent to also have a low hand too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very strong. He's a very solid captain for sure.
Mm-hmm. And that also, the wording on that is you have to pay attention to as well, because the creatures don't gain cards. It's only if for example, you have more cards in your hand than your opponent, then the secondary effect doesn't have an effect. It's basically only if your opponent has more cards. So, yeah, very cool. Very, very good, strong guy. And you can see Millie's Tavern in the back here, and there is a Millie's Mead card that is one of the item cards in the Raising of Hilo. Oh my gosh, no, the Defense of Shiloh deck. That brings us to our first of the support line. There's a kind of a 3 primary support line of creatures as far as the Shiloh NPCs go, and that is going to start with Claire, Encouraging Youth. She is only has 30 HP, so she is a little squishy. She's the humanoid, human, and Shiloh keywords. However, She does pair with the other two creatures, which we will get into later, as you will see with her trait, Orphan's Cheer. So while you have creatures with the names Timothy, Careful Youth, and a Joey, Mighty Youth, active on your battlefield, all of your attacker and defender type creatures with the Shiloh keywords gain the double strike trait, meaning what that trait does is it allows them to creatures to attack twice per combat round, meaning when they do attack, they don't go into the unactivated position. Or they don't go into the activated position. They remain in the activated position once, and then you can attack again with the cost of the mana that the attack action is. And so that's a passive trait. All of your active creatures gain it as long as the criteria are met. This could be really, really good, but you have to protect her because I think she's going to be a big target. No one wants an entire township of Shiloh people getting just double attacked every time. That would be freaking rough.
Yeah. I'm also a fan, just in general, of this line because in the tabletop RPG, without spoiling too much, you get to interact with all three of these kids that we're going to be talking about, and so
Yeah, there's a
like, I
quest
have a,
line involving them.
yeah, I have a personal connection to all three of them. But yeah, they can form to become a mega person with if they're all out on the field. So
Yeah.
really good.
They do take up 3 spaces having them all three, but the nice thing is 2 of them are support creatures, and so you can just have them and just keep activating them for mana and whatnot. And so they're a decent engine. Like I said, you just have to protect them. Hide them behind your Beaumont and Guts, hide them behind your Cane Town Watchman, and you're good.
Mhm. Which brings us to the next one.
The
Next
next
card.
creature, which is one of the main NPCs and our first hero of the electric set for the Hero of the West, which is Eska, Lorekeeper of Shiloh. He is a primary type creature with 100 hit points. He has the Captain, Humanoid, Human, and Shiloh keywords, and he is a support type. He might be the thickest support type in all of the two sets combined. He's got a lot of HP, and he's got the trait Hidden Knowledge. So your opponent cannot remove any of your cards from the game. So there are some cards that when like you slay a creature, it's removed from the game. When you play like an item card, it removes cards from the game. Things like that. And so this protects all of basically your cards as long as Eska is active. It protects everything from being removed completely from the game and said discarding. And then additionally, when one of your active creatures are slain, flip a coin. On the result of a heads, shuffle all creature cards back into your deck. Discard all other attached cards. And so it's on a coin flip. It gives you the ability to shuffle entire, basically, promotion lines back into your deck instead of discarding them. So it keeps your discard pile relatively empty and it keeps your deck full. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, it's really strong. I would say, as far as support creatures, I mean, he's a hero. He has an EX that we're going to be talking about in a second here, but he is one of the stronger, I think, hero support creatures just based off his trait alone. Even if he didn't have an attack activate, I think he would still be considered one of the stronger ones. So,
Yeah, and he's a
speaking
good
of which,
card that I think will be able to tech into a lot of decks, as opposed to
exactly.
not just mono electric element.
Mhm. Exactly. And speaking of which, if you do choose to forego activating him for mana, you can instead decide to use 2 electric mana and use Champion of the People during the movement phase. So until the bottom of the combat round, the mana cost to perform an action is reduced by 1 mana, and this is a colorless mana, so any mana for all of your active creatures. So again, if you do have a way to be able to use electric mana, even if you are teching him into another deck, it's nice because it allows all the other mana costs of all your other creatures to go down, which
Yep,
is
by
nice. So
one.
especially if you have a lot of characters attacking during the attack phase, it's definitely worth it.
Mm. And there isn't a bottom limit on that as well. And so, if you have creatures that will attack for one mana, it's a 0 mana attack cost, and so it's pretty good. But yes, as we had mentioned, he does also promote into our first EX creature, Eska Lorekeeper of Shiloh EX. Dane, why don't you go ahead and talk a little bit about our EX creatures and then also kind of the traits and everything involved with them.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, let's take a moment to appreciate the amazing art. I love the fact that all of these sets, not just the Shiloh set of Heroes of the West really do a great job of depicting each of the areas um, in which like it does a good job of putting you into the space in which these heroes inhabit. So the fact that again they're on a little peninsula sticking out into the west coast, you see a lighthouse in the background with the gorgeous light coming down and the seagulls. I think it does a really good job of kind of putting you into the space of these heroes. So, like the tabletop RPG is supposed to do, putting you into the game, I think by experiencing the artwork in the Everlast trading card game, it also kind of does the same thing. But that all aside, let's talk about Eska, Lore Keeper of Shiloh EX. So again, he is a support type creature. He's got 130 HP. One thing to keep in mind, he is an EX creature. So if he is slain, then you have to take a point of damage to your life points. So just be careful about where you place him. He does have 130 HP, so he should be pretty good. But just be careful where you place him. But he does have the hero, captain, humanoid, human, Shiloh, and scholar keywords. And again, keep in mind you can only have one hero EX card on the field at any given time. So if you do choose to have an EX on the field, Eska's a pretty good one because he's got the trait Mystic Knowledge. So as long as he's active on the battlefield, your opponent cannot remove any of your cards from the game. Additionally, when one of your active creatures is slain, shuffle all creature cards back into your deck. Discard all other cards attached cards. So again, it's the same thing as it's better than Hidden Knowledge.
Yep.
So
Yep, and you no longer you remove that coin flip, and so it's automatic. And so you, as long as this creature honestly is on your battlefield, as long as your opponent's slaying creatures, there's honestly no way to deck out.
He's very strong. Very good.
Pretty good. And then he has the Champion of the People, which is the exact same thing as his base card. So until the bottom of the combat round, the mana cost to perform an attack action is reduced by 1 just normal mana for all of your active creatures. The only caveat is the cost is reduced by 1. So instead of 2 electric mana, it only costs 1 electric mana now.
Very strong. He does have an EX activate, so again, you can only use this once per game for this specific card. If you do decide to use it, it's 3 electric mana and is Army of the People, and it's actually an attack. It's a activate during the movement phase that does 10 times, so it actually does damage, which is very strong. Any damage done during the movement phase is super strong. But it also shuffle up to 8 cards from your discard pile back into your deck and deal 10 damage to all of your opponent's active creatures for each creature card shuffled back into your deck in this way. So again, very strong. Especially if you have a ton, if you put him in late game, he's super strong late game because if you have a ton of creature cards in it, you could be doing 100 damage to everyone on the battlefield. If you decide to put 10 creatures back into your deck. So
I think it's 8 creature cards, and so 80 damage, but it's an 80 damage AoE to everything on the battlefield. So it is a board. It could potentially board wipe, which is that's pretty darn good. And again, it's also a good way that if you don't want to use it just to get creatures back, you can get some of your other like item cards or even arts back into your deck in that way. If you only need to do like 60 damage or even 40 damage or I guess no damage at all, it's a pretty good way to get cards back into your deck. And he does damage as a support creature, which is awesome.
Yeah, very solid support. Definitely one of the better ones in Heroes of the West for sure.
I feel like we've talked a lot about him, but we're going to go ahead and revisit some of these kids. We're going to go into the attacker type creature, Joey, Mighty Youth. He has 50 hit points, the humanoid, human, and Shiloh keywords. He's an attacker type, as I had mentioned as well. And if you remember, he does pair with Claire, encouraging youth. And so, yeah, he...
look at that. Do they create a picture?
I think they do.
Whoa, it's like they're in the same place at the same time.
Crazy.
Wow.
Crazy beans. But anyways, you have Joey, Mighty Youth, and he has the trait Fearless. This creature cannot be affected by the Frightened status ailment. Pretty good. There are some causes of fear in these sets just generally, but there are going to be a lot more creatures in future sets that will have that. And so I think he'll be pretty playable for a long time. And Dane, why don't you go ahead and talk about his attack action?
as an attacker, he's got an attack activate. So for one electric mana, he has the attack Helm Splitter for 20 plus. The fact that it's a 1 mana is kind of nice. But the additional effect is add 20 damage for each creature named Claire, Encouraging Youth, and Timothy, Careful Youth, active on your battlefield. So again, as long as all three of them are active on the battlefield, for one energy, he could deal 60 damage. So that's very solid for a just 1 mana attack cost. So
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's one of those things where I think he really excels at going and poking life points.
yeah,
I think that's something we will notice a lot about these electric cards is whether it's moving creatures around. Like this card is great with Gust. You can use the Gust art in order to move your opponent's creatures to open up combat lanes, and then you just poke life points for very cheap. Or again, up to 60 damage for 1 mana. That's pretty good too. So
or if you have Esk on your battlefield, you could potentially do it for 0 energy
exactly.
or mana, not energy. So pretty solid.
And that brings us into our next creature, Lady Edith of House Nessa. She has 70 hit points. She has the humanoid, human, and Shiloh keywords. She is a support creature. And she's got a very interesting trait. And so you'll notice in the Everlast TCG, you can only have up to 8 creatures active on your battlefield at a time. However, her trait Room for All is as follows. So as long as she is active on your battlefield, you may have up to 10 creatures active on your battlefield, as long as all creatures have the electric element type. If this creature is discarded, or if you play an active creature card without the electric element, discard active creatures from your battlefield as slain creature cards until you have 8 active creatures. So it's kind of a little bit wordy, but basically, as long as she's on your battlefield and as long as your battlefield is completely filled with electric type creatures, you can have up to 10 creatures as opposed to 8. And so you'll notice, like on your battlefield, that takes up a big chunk of space considering there's only 15 spaces on the battlefield. So having 10 with only 5 spaces open, you are going to be having a lot of creatures there. And so as long as you can protect her, squish her in between things, protect her with Beaumont and God's Cane, or whatever the case, you're going to have a big battlefield, and your opponent's going to have issues dealing with it.
Yeah. And the fact that she's a support is also nice because you can just kind of protect her and generate mana throughout the turns, which is nice. But if you decide to forego generating mana, you can use her activate for 2 electric mana. Orderly Conduct. So randomly discard 2 cards from your opponent's hand. Again, electric really specializes in hand manipulation, especially of your opponent. So yeah, it's pretty good. So you
Pretty
can
good.
discard cards.
Art's pretty good too. I like the background on that. Which brings us into our second hero of this deck, or of this element, which is going to be Lila, Shiloh's beloved. And so she, yeah, Dane, why don't you go ahead and introduce Lila for us?
Yeah, so she's an attacker with 90 HP, and as you can see, she is a musician. Look at her in the Shiloh Theater. She's pretty cool. She's also an important character in the Everlast tabletop RPG. You will get to see her, meet her, and she's pretty cool. So she is a captain. So again, you can only have up to 3 of them onto the battlefield. And she's got the captain, humanoid, human, Shiloh, and bard keyword. What kind of bard she is, you're gonna have to find out. Play the tabletop RPG. But she's an attacker type class, and she has got the drop ability. So when you play her from your hand onto the battlefield, Master Storyteller. So add just a normal mana with a number equal to the number of active creatures that have the Shiloh keyword onto your battlefield, not including this creature card, to your mana pool. So if you've basically got a full mana battlefield, you can add just a ton of mana at one given time, which is nice. And especially if you have what Agatha is her name, then you could do potentially up to 9.
Or Edith,
No,
yeah.
yeah, Edith. Sorry, Edith. You could potentially do up to 9 mana, which is pretty solid.
Yeah, and that's just colorless. So this is a great card. That doesn't necessarily pair with Lady Edith, but like if you decide to run her in a multi-element deck, this covers any mana, and so there's a separate mana slot on your mana pool for just pure mana, and it could be used for the cost of anything. And so yeah, it's pretty good.
Yep. So, Kyle, do you want to talk about the activate attack ability she has?
So she is an attacker, and so she does have the activate ability for attacker for a whopping 4 electric mana. She can do plot twist, which, as you can see, it has the maximum coverage of an attack action. So it has a primary type creature, and then also we have a what is that, like 8 creatures that it hits secondarily for 10. And one caveat to note about this is you see that it's basically implanted in the middle, meaning you can skip over one of the creatures in the front of the line as long as there's a creature back behind it. Or if there is a creature in the back, you can, I guess, spend 4 mana to attack the life points directly with that. And
Okay,
so
very solid.
um, definitely important to look at that, but it does to the 70 to the primary, 10 to all secondary creatures with the additional with the additional effect, flip a coin for each target. On the result of a heads, the target gains the stun status ailment for D4 combat rounds, which stunned allows them to just not be able to move. And so they can still perform actions and stuff, they just can't move during that time. Pretty good.
Yeah, very nice.
And she promotes into our second hero, which is Lila, Shiloh's beloved EX. And so she has 130 HP this time. She is an EX, so if she is slain, you take 1 point of damage from your life point total. She keeps her attacker types with the hero, captain, humanoid, human, Shiloh, and bard keywords. She has the drop ability, so it's a different drop ability, but she has Minuet of the Ages. All of your attacker creatures gain 30 damage to the primary target creature of their attack actions until the end of the combat round. And so she buffs all of your pretty much primary, she buffs all of your creatures that have attack actions. And so, yeah, your I don't know, like farmers, instead of dealing their minimum points, they can get a additional 30 points to it. Actually makes Joey pretty strong. So if you have all 3 of like your kid characters out, instead of just doing the 60 maximum damage, he could do 90 for 1 mana. Pretty good. And so yeah, she definitely is a really great 1-turn drop. So if you have if you have just Lila out generally, she might be a card that you keep in your hand until a specific moment to play her. But Dane, why don't you go ahead and talk about her activate ability?
Yeah, so it's different. So she doesn't have like just a better version of plot twist. Instead, for 3 electric mana, she's got Tale of Love. So the primary target creature gets dealt 80 damage, and then 4 secondary creatures get dealt 40. It's not the full coverage, but it does more damage to creatures in the corners, which is kind of nice. And it has the additional effect: the primary target gains the Charmed status ailment for D4 combat rounds. So again, lots of status conditions among the electric type cards of the Heroes of the West. So
Yep,
pretty good.
and essentially what Charmed does is whenever a creature that is affected by the Charm status ailment performs an action, so whether that's a support action or attack action, flip a coin. If tails, do not pay the mana cost of the action and instead move the affected creature into the activated position, foregoing the action's effect. And so it pretty much is kind of like a stun on actions. So it can still move and everything, but when it performs actions, it has the potential to not perform the action. It doesn't pay the cost of that, but it's pretty good. It's pretty trolly.
Mm-hmm.
It makes
Yeah.
your creatures unreliable for their actions, which is good. So it's a very strong status ailment, specifically against attacker defender type creatures.
Mm-hmm.
But we have the EX ability. So again, you can only use a 1 EX ability on Lila per game, and it has it's an attacking type ability for 2 electric mana. Tales of the Fallen. With the additional effect, so it does 20 damage to the primary target. So deal 20 damage to the target times the number of creatures in your opponent's discard pile. And so if it at the end of the game, the potential damage cap on this is insane. I think she has the potential to do the highest amount of damage, at least consistently, in the game with just this EX activate. So it's really bad early game, but if you're using it late game, it can hit like a truck. It'll take out anything.
Mm-hmm. Very solid. I like Lila. Glad she's in the set.
Yeah, her and Eska kind of have a little bit of a special relationship too, so you'll be able to see that as well. which goes into our attacker line of the electric creatures, which starts us off with the Shiloh Farmer. These guys are also in the Defense of Shiloh EX battle deck. You can have 3 of them on your battlefield at a time, and they have 50 hit points with the humanoid, human, and Shiloh keywords. They are attackers with the drop ability, Reap the Harvest. So when you play this creature from your hand onto your battlefield, choose either to draw 2 cards or have your opponent discard 1 card from their hand. Pretty good.
Yeah, especially early game if you want to control another person's hand or if you want to get cards into your hand. But don't sleep on them. They may look mediocre, but the fact that they, for one mana for their EX activate, you can use Spear for 20 damage and then 20 to the primary as well as 20 to the secondary. Again, as we talked about with Joey, it's super strong if you want to attack life points, especially early game. You can start poking life points right away
For very cheap.
Yeah, for very cheap. Yeah, don't sleep on these guys, especially because what they promote into.
Which is a good segue into their promotion, the Shiloh Militia. Dane, why don't you go ahead and explain what they do?
Yep. So again, don't sleep on them. They're probably my favorite attacker cards, like non-hero cards in the entire Heroes of the West. I love them. I know they look dumb. I know they look like they're just farmers. What can they do? But for 70 HP as an attacker type, the Shiloh Militia, with the humanoid, human, and Shiloh keyword, has the trait to arms. So this creature adds 10 damage to all the targets of its attack actions for every creature with the human keyword that you have active on your battlefield. So it can do a ton of damage if you have a bunch of humans on your battlefield.
Human is the most common keyword right now in the Everlast trading card game for the first 2 sets. And so you can pair these guys with a lot, especially because they only have the one basically 1 attack cost for that. So they're great for mono decks, but they're also great for other decks. Mm-hmm. And they just have the simple attack action. So they lose the secondary target, but they do gain +1 or +10 damage to the primary target. So it's just Spear for 30. Yeah, I think at first glance, these guys don't look great. But as I mentioned before, they're great for poking life points. And if you are able to fill your battlefield fast with humans, whether it's Shiloh humans, whether it's the Kingdom of Helix humans, Calum humans, whoever the case is, you can literally have up to 8. Or if you also pair it with Lady Edith, up to 10 creatures. So this creature adds 10 damage to all the targets. And so you get basically the base with Lady Edith. 100, so 130. And then if you have equipment based off of them, so whether it's the spear, so what the spear allows you to do is it gives you secondary target to your attacks. You're attacking creatures to the side. If you give them the broadsword, it gives you basically attacks on either side. So he can hit multiple people really hard for 1 mana. This guy's kind of cracked if you can set him up situationally. And so the nice thing is he put him down onto your battlefield, and he looks kind of harmless at first until he's not. So yeah. He's in the EX battle decks as mentioned too. And yeah, Dane, you have like a 100% win percentage with this.
I have never lost. So we've done how many events at this point? Tons of events at this point. And I usually play in because it's fun. I enjoy playing the game. And every time I've played the Shiloh deck, because of these guys are a big reason why my record with that deck is 100%. I don't know what it is. I think I've won at least 8 or 9 games with it, but I have never lost with it. So these guys are a big reason for that.
Which brings us to our final character of the Heroes of the West, Electric Elements. It's kind of sad, but I'm going to go ahead and put these guys up for reference here. We're going to complete the picture here. Our last but not least, we have Timothy, Careful Youth. It's kind of a little wonky how they fit, but that's how the cards are supposed to fit as far as their art goes. But Timothy, Careful Youth, he is the last creature. He is a support creature, so he works kind of as your mana engines along with Claire. But essentially, what he does is he has 40 hit points, the humanoid human Shiloh keywords, and the drop ability Thoughtful. Rotate one of your creatures in the activated position into the unactivated position. So he has the drop ability, pretty much the exact same as the Bard. Just rotate it back from a creature from the activated position into the unactivated position. And then additionally, if your opponent has more cards in their hand than you have in your hand, draw 3 cards. And so he has a 2-part effect. So he has draw power and he has the ability to unactivate creatures, which is awesome.
Mhm. If you decide to forego, as because he is a support creature, if you decide to forego using his turning him for mana, you can use 2 electric mana to balance the odds. So both you and your opponent shuffles your hands into your deck and draw 3 cards. So again, if you're not really struggling with cards and you have everything you need, but your opponent has a massive hand, this is really good because it basically makes them only draw 3. So it's good hand manipulation as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's kind of a little story on these cards, which you guys will see later in the tabletop RPG. But don't go anywhere because we'll be right back with our analysis on the Raising of Helix electric cards. But you will see these guys a little later. So if you guys are watching on YouTube, go check out that video, the evil creatures for the Raising of Helix for the electric elements. But that's all for the good creatures in the Heroes of the West expansion. There are a lot of things that you can do, a lot of synergies, a lot of good mana draw. As you can tell, the electric creatures, they're kind of near and dear to Dane's in my heart. A lot of our campaign that we played at home and the Everlast TCG involved Shiloh, and so a lot of these characters you'll get to know, and they're really nice. Especially, particularly these 3 kids, they're pretty cute. So, without further ado, we will let you guys go. Stay tuned next week for we're going to be going over the light element creatures for the Heroes of the West, starring kind of the Knights of Helix, led by the Prince himself, and then also Aelfric, the Knight Commander. But until then, may Alomnia guide you, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye, everybody.